I met him last year in person, and I really like this guy. Very genuine, very kind, soft spoken. So he's a father, international speaker, business and personal development coach, and the founder and CEO of Leaders Must Lead. So without further ado, why don't you say hi, Dan? Hello.
Hi, Dan. I had to get a dad joke in on the day that I've spent most of with my son, and I'm sure he would greatly appreciate it. Hello, everyone. I love these guys. I love the connection that we have ever since we met last year, since we talked on the podcast, all
Yeah.
of the things. And I'm excited to be here and chat about whatever it is that we're going to chat about tonight.
Well, anything under the sun. Talk about your life, personal life. We created Chat with Coaches just to give another avenue to coaches to give them a break. Talk about anything about life, business, your expertise, what's happening. Let's start with how is it there from where you are?
In as related to the pandemic,
Yeah.
I think that it is a lot like it is everywhere. It's a little uncertain. There's been a good amount of chaos and wondering of what's going to happen as things go forward. We are currently under a good amount of restrictions. And when I say a good amount, I mean a significant amount of restrictions, but not
Mhm.
nearly as severe as some places in the world, not nearly as severe as to a degree what I see in Manila, for example.
Yeah.
We are on a lockdown, I guess, or a quarantine that requires us to stay home, except that we can go out for shopping, we can go out to get takeout, we can go out to get to pick up food and things like that,
Yeah.
and we can go out for walks and exercise. We don't have to carry papers when we go out, which I know some places in the world do. We are allowed to take more than one person out of the house, but we're restricted from a lot of things. Most businesses, or many businesses, are closed. Some are open, and then there are some that are open part way. Other businesses are trying to find a way to succeed. There was an article today, and I have a lot of friends who run restaurants, and they've been certainly very, very much hit. And many restaurants have become grocery stores. They now offer groceries, including toilet paper and things like that, available for sale and curb pickup, as they do everything they can to form businesses. I've
Yeah.
spent a lot of my time as I coach a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are kind of in the mix of it, running these small businesses, who are concerned. I've spent a lot of my time sharing two big messages. One is to be calm, to be the calm in the storm, and some paths to do that. And the second is to be forward looking and recognize that whatever we're going through, that it will pass, and there will be an
Yeah.
opportunity that we go forward, and there are going to be people who do well, and we make those choices now. So that's been my focus. And I know there are many who are struggling. I struggle with anxiety and depression, and oddly enough,
Mhm.
I've been in really good shape with that. But I know many who are struggling with that, in being out of their routine and having less social contact than they otherwise would.
Yeah. I'm interested about that because, with what's going on right now here in the Philippines, we need to have a pass before we can go to the market, to the public market or to
Mhm.
the supermarket. I remember the first time we heard about the lockdown, we went to the supermarket and there's a long lineup.
Right.
We did our panic buying. And then
But we didn't hoard toilet paper.
we didn't hoard toilet
Oh,
paper.
then you clearly not in the U.S., because we have hoarded
Yeah.
toilet paper
Or
here.
Canada.
Uh-huh. And then the longest time I was there to do the grocery. And by the way, there's only one person allowed for each family to go out
Right.
to the supermarket. So I'm the sacrifice. I'm the one who went to the grocery.
She's young
And
and healthy, so
so I was there for like 6 hours. And
Wow.
there was a lineup, a big lineup outside the supermarket, and the security guards will ask if you have the pass. So if you don't have the pass, they're not gonna let you in. and they are limiting the people inside the supermarket for about 10 to 20 persons. So they're going to wait for someone to finish, get out of the supermarket, and then let somebody in. So I was there, I think, more than an hour in the line waiting for me to get inside. And the supplies are okay. All the shelves are kind of like full. Um, vegetables, there's no
Right.
rice anymore. And for those people who knows Filipino, rice is like,
That's everything.
Air.
yeah, it's
It's like air.
everything. It's like air for us. It's like,
Right.
what do you call
It's
that?
like toilet paper for us, apparently.
I guess, yeah. So there's no rice. The only rice that I found there was red rice, brown rice, and we don't
Right.
we want to be healthy, but we don't like the brown rice and red
Yeah, I
rice.
don't either. My wife likes it. I don't. I want right, and I'm even picky. I like certain brands of rice. So
Yeah.
I'm really I like nishiki rice. Give me good
So you
nishiki
you
sticky
guys
rice.
are, Dan, you're still lucky because you can still go out. Here, if
Yeah.
the authorities will catch you without a pass, they're gonna ask you why are you out, and you could be put into jail.
Yeah,
So
it's much stricter there. They've moved more towards that, and we can be fined for being out. In fact, this week it was switched to where if you own two homes in different parts of the state, you're no longer allowed to drive between them. And
uh,
they're pulling more people over, but it's very soft compared to what you're dealing with. The
yeah.
grocery stores do have a limited amount that they're allowed to have inside. It's now 4 people per 1,000 square feet, or if
Mm.
it's a small business, it's no more than 25% of the normal occupancy, which is usually going to be a small
Uh,
number anyway. And there are lines to wait outside. That said, I went shopping this weekend, and I went to one small store, and then I went to a large store. The large store I had no wait. The small store, I was the second person to be able to go in. So
mhm.
that wasn't difficult. We are seeing that there are certain products that we're running out of. Like, we don't have a lot of rice, and people don't use rice as much here, but the rice seems to be gone also.
Yeah.
And thankfully I keep 50 pounds of rice on hand at all times, so I have plenty of rice. But the rice, the paper products, the cleaners, those sorts of things
Mm.
are very limited. And then things like frozen vegetables, and
Yeah.
even some of the canned vegetables, those things are low, but most items are in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm. Do you
And
have
one
any
thing that one
cases
thing that's
around your area?
interesting. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. What?
Do you have any positive case around the area
Oh,
in your
yes.
town?
Oh, yes. We have. I think today I just saw an article that today in Michigan is the first day that we've had less than 100 new new cases or new deaths. But we've
Wow.
had quite a few deaths
Mm.
here. In fact, Detroit is, I think, the third leading difficult area in the US for COVID.
Yeah.
And Detroit's about 30 minutes from me. Where I live is in much better shape than that, and we have
Mhm.
very strong healthcare system. But I lost someone that I know just yesterday, and
Oh.
not someone that I know well. I've lost a couple dozen in my broader network,
Hmm.
but that I know personally, only a couple. But I
Hmm.
have friends who've lost dozens that they know personally.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. You know what? Let's go back to that is sad. The closest person that I know here in my town, we've got four cases. The first patient died already. The second is still fighting for his life, and from what I found out, he's a cousin of a friend.
Okay.
And then the third one, I can't remember, but the fourth patient got infected by the first patient. So we've got four positive cases here in my town. But I want to talk about, you mentioned something about you experienced yourself anxiety and depression.
Yes.
And it's very important, I think, to talk about mental health
Absolutely.
nowadays because everybody's quarantined, everybody's kind of like have that feeling of isolation. I guess for us, we are just homebodies, and
Yeah.
we like just staying at home. And when it's Monday to Friday, it's really work. And since because our business is online, so for us, staying at home is kind of like normal. But then again, when we want to have coffee, go to Starbucks, that's something we can't do.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but for maybe the majority of the people who are not used to staying at home for the longest time, what can you tell them? What advice can you tell
Well, I would say first to recognize that you're far from alone, that you don't have to be isolated socially, even if you're isolated by distance. One of the most common things that for me, as I said, I've been very fortunate in this case. I've struggled with anxiety and depression for years. I have thankfully survived two suicide attempts, and I have no desire to ever go back close to that. I won't. I've in fact started a group called Light from Darkness, and I will be forming a nonprofit for that to help prevent suicide. And a
them?
lot of it is through my passion to help people see that there truly is light through the darkness. And I think one of the first is that you recognize when most people, when they start struggling from anxiety and depression, when it flares up, it tends to be one of a couple of things happens. One, that the world kind of narrows, and the second is that they tend to look inward and downward. And I think of this as it becomes, I start spinning, I start grabbing onto the same thing and spinning and looking inward and feeling like I'm more alone, or like, oh, I don't want to trouble people, or I don't want to deal with other things. And my challenge is always to say we should look upward and outward. And
Yeah.
that when we do that, to recognize that not only are we not alone, but those people around us who say that they want to help and who express that they care, that they do mean it, and that we should take the first step. It's like anything else. We have to overcome our own momentum of zero. We have to get past that thing where we won't do anything and do the very first thing. Find one tangible, positive forward action that you can take, because motion trumps emotion. And for me, I recommend the first one to say, hey, let me talk to somebody. And if I talk to somebody, I know that that'll begin to energize me. It'll begin to pull me out. I recommend in a time like this, if you have an internet connection and can make that work well, I recommend that you do a Zoom call. In fact, these calls like this, or I do Zoom calls 8 or 10 hours a day right now for work, but
Mhm.
separately, I do Zoom calls with friends. I went on because we are able to leave for exercise. I went on a walk in the woods the other day by myself, but I had a Zoom call with a friend of mine, and she was going for a walk, and we did a walk together and got to see pictures of where the other person was, and it felt like I was going for a walk with them. You can
Mhm.
also do that in your home, but this reminder that motion trumps emotion is so important. It's about, how do I do something? How do I take action? If I sit still, then I sink lower. If I get up and start moving, then I'm going forward.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think I kind of like experienced those type of, the sadness when I was going through a rocky marriage, and then I finally got separated. I was left with two young kids, and I was renting. I was working from home, and the emotions was just so strong. And my go-to thing then was to smoke. And I can say that I got addicted. I was a smoker. I could finish one pack of Marlboro in a day, because for me everything is kind of like so stressful. My thinking back then was, how am I going to survive? I need to keep on working so that I can pay for the rent. I can pay for my kids' tuition fees. We need to survive. And aside from smoking, I just indulge myself into work. And looking back, I would reach out to friends and talk to them. Um, but really having that initiative, or making that decision to reach out to somebody, for you to be able to lift yourself and get out from that darkness, it's I guess it's easier said than done, because I was out from that situation already.
Yeah.
But for those people who are feeling alone, um, make use of the resources right now. Reach out to somebody and just talk. Maybe you don't have to talk about what you're going through, but just talk and reach out and have that feeling of having somebody to go to.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
another thing that's important is to give yourself something that is positive to work towards. Like when I work with others, one of the things that I'll do is figure out something that they're excited about that might be a week or a few days or a week or 2 weeks later, and put an anchor out there of saying, hey, this is a spot of light that's ahead of me, and it gives me
Just the faith.
something to
Yeah.
aim at, right?
Mhm.
I also think that remembering that even small actions make a big difference is super important. You
Yeah.
don't have to go have 50 conversations. You don't have to go have the hardest conversation that you've ever had. It's
Yeah.
about how do I give myself the tiniest bit of momentum? I said it before, and I think it bears repeating, that the hardest momentum to overcome is the momentum of zero. It's the momentum of doing nothing, of being drawn in. And if we think that we're sitting still, we're actually going backward. Every day we either get better or we get worse. And we can choose that we're not going to have a day where we go backwards. So here's two things that I will give you that I believe really help. One is establish what I would call tent poles. Think of a tent pole like the world is chaos around us. And what we all want, what we all crave is a safe structure. We all crave a structure to be within, right? Think about it. If a huge storm was raging outside right now, you'd be really glad to be inside your house. Even
Yeah.
if a really good tent, you'd be glad to be inside of that as
Mm.
opposed to out in the middle of the storm.
Yeah.
We a lot of times will wander around out in the middle of the storm and not even look for our tent. So what I encourage you to do is put a few tent poles in the ground, things that are small habits that will make a huge difference and be anchors in your life. For me, I do that with three things, and each one takes care of a different part of things for me. It takes care of my mental, my emotional, and my physical health.
Right.
First, in the morning, I do a gratitude practice. And I specifically do this practice where I write three things down. I write them down. I don't just say them. I
Mm.
actually have to type them or write them or it won't work. That they're non-repetitive. They're nothing that I've said before. And I do that, and it takes me about 2.5 minutes. And the funny thing is, 2.5 weeks into doing that, my brain chemistry changes, and I'll be grateful 12 hours or 13 hours later in the day, even though I didn't think about it for more than that 2.5 minutes. And it's cool because you can't really be sad and grateful at the same time. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. So you're changing your brain chemistry, which is what anxiety and depression, a lot of it has to do with a lot of the chemistry in our brain. The
Mhm.
second thing is at the end of the day, I do a growth exercise where I look and say, what did I learn? How did I get better? Or how did I go forward today? And if I can't think of anything, I keep a book next to it that I read for 10 minutes and I write it down. Those two habits only cost me a total of 5 minutes a day, and they change my brain chemistry completely to being moving forward and grateful. And the third is I find a way, no matter what, to do at least 10 minutes of exercise a day, not an hour, not 2 hours. Now, don't be wrong. I'd love to do those others, but I commit that even if I'm really sick, I will do 10 minutes of some form of exercise. And now I know I've done a little bit to care for my mental, emotional, and physical health. And I've
Mhm.
put these three tent poles in the ground that now the tent goes over, and I have a solid structure that keeps me much more secure and much less likely to get lost in the gray.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think the point you make about writing down your gratitudes is so important. It's like, everybody has different styles of learning or different styles of remembering stuff. And I've tried over the years all different methods of remembering things. And I'll go to seminars and I'll take my iPad or I'll take my laptop and I'll type out
Right.
notes. And at the end of the day, I remember nothing. I can go back to my notes and, oh yeah, okay, now I remember that. But I found personally that actually handwriting, pen on paper, helps me to remember
To
things and to
remember. Yeah.
recall things so much better. So I like that rather than just speaking out your gratitudes or even thinking them in your head. You're just having a conversation with yourself. Actually putting that down, keys on your keyboard or a pen on a piece of paper is just makes that so much more real, and it's
It
there that you
also
can refer back to it.
Exactly. You have the ability to do a few other things. It gives you a little bit of personal visual accountability, and you can go back a year later and see how many of the things, or when you're struggling, go back and read your last 30 days of gratitudes, and you'll see 90 things that you were thankful for, which is really cool. I'll give you one cool note. You mentioned about how you take notes. I've done a lot of study into this, and I've trained people some different things with note taking. One cool tip, I know it's not really our topic, but I think it's a cool tip, so I'll share it.
So,
Take those when you type your notes at an event, because I type them because I can't read my own handwriting. Literally, it's that bad. So I type them, but I have the same issue, and almost everybody has the same issue, that they don't remember everything, but it's because they don't do the next important step. When you get home at night, take all of those notes and do a couple things with it. One, take every action item that you had within there, the thing you needed to do, and put it onto your task list. Actually pull it out and put it on your task list. So now you won't lose any. How many times do you go back and find, I was going to do something and I never did?
yeah.
And the second is rewrite all the remaining notes down into one page. I don't care if you had 20 pages that day, take them down into one page. The process of doing that, you get rid of all the stuff you didn't need, that you didn't know when you were writing it. You get it down, you lock it into your head for going through it a second time, and you make it an easy reference. And then you get to the end of a month and you just have a few pages. And I actually take then that months and put those into one page, but I'm a little nuts. But doing that step of rewriting it at night and pulling the tasks out and getting everything else down to one page will transform your recall dramatically.
That's huge. There's my takeaway for today right there. It was worth getting up early and actually.
That's why I like talking to Dan.
It's because I'm a huge note taker, but I tend to handwrite just because I find it more efficient and better recall. But I was going through here just a couple of weeks ago. I was going through a big stack of notes that I had at different seminars I'd been at, or an online webinar. I'll handwrite notes while I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh, I really should go through this. And I'm like, oh, there's like 7 pages there. I don't have time to go 7 pages. So I'm going to start doing that. I'll do my notes like I do it, but once I'm done with that meeting,
I handwrite mine sometimes. Like I was at a conference a month or so ago when we could still, go places. And I was at a conference, and I took a bunch of notes, and my tablet ran out of battery. So I took several pages that were handwritten that day. And when I did, I went back and I rewrote them. Same thing, take it down to one page. It's amazing. Pulling those tasks out and putting it on your list gets so much more done and keeps it in front of you. And then just getting down to what really matters, it will lock it into your head. I started doing this about 10 years ago, and it changed. It sounds trite. It changed my life, but it changed my life as it relates to gaining information.
Yeah.
No, I really like that idea.
It will really help you remember stuff, because I too is an old school type of, I've got Evernote on my computer. I've got notes. Sometimes if I'm out, I'm going to write on I'm going to put notes on my phone. But having that notebook and writing everything down, it just helps me remember stuff. That's a good one, Dan. That's why I really like talking to you.
Oh, well, I like talking to you guys. You guys are fun.
You know what? Everything that's happening right now, I told our team members that, we do have a weekly meeting we have a meeting every week. And I would tell them that, when, during these times, you just have to find that silver lining. And it will just give you hope that this too shall pass. And so find silver lining. For me, everybody's slowing down. We've got more time with our family, so I think that's a good thing already.
I also think that it's okay to acknowledge that it's hard. That's one of the things that I was unintentionally becoming a little guilty of, I think, near the beginning, of just saying, it's fine. But I think I want to acknowledge that it's hard so that I don't give it power. Right? I don't want to I refuse to give this situation power over me. And part of that is acknowledging that it's real. There are parts of it that I don't like. There are parts of it that are sad and hard. I accept that. I process that. I recognize that there are times I may need to grieve or deal with it, but I also have an opportunity to choose how I come out of this. This last year, the top sentence for me has been that our environment, the places we are, the people we're around, the situations, that may exert influence, but it's our choices that truly create change. And I am completely committed to maintaining control of my own opportunity, my own success, how I deal with people. And I recognize that we become under pressure who we really are. Like when you think about it, we don't rise to the level of our hopes. We fall to the level of what we've trained ourselves and who we really have become. So character isn't necessarily made, it's revealed. And I'm excited to share that, to connect with that, and to help others. It's okay to say, hey, here's some struggle, but it's not really okay to be lost in that, to let that carry you around, nor should we grab the same single piece of news, even if it's said by 25 different people in 25 different places, and just focus on that and spin around. We should avoid the whirlwind and become the calm in the storm.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I had a long career in emergency management communications, and it's interesting when you work with the same group of people day in and day out, and it was shipped 24/7 operation. So you spend a lot of your life with these people, and you'll have people that just in ordinary life you just don't get along. You don't love or get along with every person that you meet. Well, maybe Dan does, but I don't.
Not so much.
But what would always amaze me whenever we used to refer to it as something exciting would happen, when something bad would happen somewhere, is to see a group of people that would come together so strong and with a total focus on the purpose of why they were there. And like you say, people don't rise to the highest level in the bad thing. They fall down to their default training. And it was amazing to see a group of people that 10 minutes earlier were bickering and complaining and fighting about something, being the most cohesive team when something bad happened. And it was just amazing to sit back and watch this group of people perform at such an amazing high level and know that was what they had trained for, that was what they were waiting for to happen.
Yeah.
And I think, I agree what you say. It's people at their worst, or when in the worst situations, fall back to their default. And that's not a bad thing, because that's, in general real life, that's how we cope. That's our coping mechanisms, is to default to that. Not everybody can be that, oh, it's going to be great, this will be over soon, and we've got all this time at home to clean and bake and spend time with the kids. Everybody about this point wants to kill their kids. And we're done cleaning, we're done baking. We just want this to be over. But, as Pam said, this too shall pass. This isn't the worst possible thing that could be happening to people right now.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that I agree with what Pam said of finding the good. I just wanted to make sure to give that point that it's okay to acknowledge that there is struggle. But I think that it's amazing to see all in the world that has come together that's good. Companies that weeks before were producing an entirely different product are now making ventilators and masks, or restaurants that are finding a way, and business owners that are finding a way, or people that are even in the midst of their own struggle just creating meals for others, and all of the wonderful things that their real sincere human nature is bringing them out to do. Is, I think, fantastic. I also think that it is good to say, hey, now if I've dealt with my emotional or mental health, or maybe even part of a way to do that is to say, how will I get better? How will I find a way to learn something or to gain something? I don't know that everybody's going to follow that magic path, or that's the magic path for everyone. But for many, I think that if you think of what the things that you may have said 3 months ago, I wish I had more time. I'm way too busy. If I weren't this busy, I would do this. I really need a break. Sometimes what people need right now is to allow themselves to relax and breathe and get the break that their body's been asking for 2 years.
Right.
If this were 4 years ago for me, I can tell you that I needed to have just taken the month and slept. When I had worked 90 hours a week for 20 years, and I was broken. When I first went to start my company, I was at a spot where I took a month off and just was like, okay, I just need to reset my life. And for some people, that might be the right answer now. But the question is, what is it that will allow you to go forward in the best possible way? And yes, I think to your point also, David, it's to look and say, how do I not get in this game of comparison? How do I not get in this game of comparing with others and get caught in where they're at or where and compared to where I'm at, but rather I figure out what's the right thing for me, and how do I find my positive? How do I find my light? How do I find my forward? And how do I maintain not only that gratitude, but that opportunity to really grow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those are good questions to ponder. I guess we're gonna leave our audience with that and think about it. How are you gonna turn this bad situation into a good one for you, for your family, for your business, for your personal life, and all those questions that Dan mentioned. So I guess let's leave it at that. That's that's a good one. I really like this conversation, Dan. We've learned a lot, and I hope all the audience, all the people who are watching and listening right now, got a lot of nuggets out of our conversation. But before anything else, Dan, would you like, please tell us where we can find you, and just, piece of advice for everybody who's feeling sad and isolated and with everything that's going on right
So where you can find me is easy. Everywhere is roughly the answer. Uh, my website's leadersmustlead.com. The easiest way to find me all over the place is the Dreams Are Real podcast and the Dreams Are Real Facebook group. So come and join us. Join us there. We have lots of positive, inspirational stories, and we provide inspiration and tools that help people to achieve their dreams. My tagline there recently has been "Dreams are still real." And so the Dreams Are Real podcast, or my name, Dan McPherson, or Leaders Must Lead on all the different social media. Lots of really cool, fun, exciting stuff going on. But those are the best places to find me. As far as a piece of advice, it would be this: remember that you matter. People matter most. You matter, not somebody else. You, the person hearing this right now, you matter incredibly to me, to these guys, to everybody else that's listening to the world. And you bring a light that only you can bring into the world. You bring change that only you can bring into the world. The things that you have yet to accomplish, the things that you have yet to even encounter or touch in the world, are tremendously impacted now and by the vibrations of what you will create through the next months and years. We appreciate you and we love you, and there is light through all darkness. You matter.
now. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.